Jack, what was your total roster size? We had about 50 total, JV and varsity.
Okay, there we go.
You back with us, buddy?
Yeah, man, I had a little glitch.
Okay. 29 players, 9 through 12 schools. So our school's a little smaller than yours, but I promise you two secrets on getting your roster size up. One, if you do go 2 platoon, and I know it's in your DNA, you're either 1 platoon or 2 platoon, but I think you get your numbers up by going 2 platoon because they know they're going to get to play instead of just watching your stud tailback carry the ball 40 times a game. So we have a few less kids in our school, but we had a little over 50 is what we ended up total program wise. And then the second one, and this is going to sound like communism to you, but take kids coming out late. Let them come out. Don't have a cutoff date. I used to do that for years and years and years. I used to not let kids come out after a certain point, and it's just crazy. And I heard some guy from Montana talking about how you turn a program around the easy way, and he would take kids. He didn't care if it was 7 weeks into the season. He would take them. They got to have a certain amount of days in anyway, but he would take them, and he said, half the time they would turn out to be great players, in a year or two. You just had to get them in the fold, get them around you, get them around your kids. So that's 2 cheats on how to get more kids out. And then Matt, on your 2 platoon system, how do you decide who gets to play on what side of the ball? Also, at what level do you guys start? So on JV, we have to go both ways. So when in practice, generally we'll have one day where they're with offense and one day where they're with defense on JV. On varsity, there's a lot of self-selection. And then, George, I think we tend to take the better skill guys and put them on offense. And we tend to take the better big boys and put them on defense. But if a kid self-selects, and most of them do, and he's actually good at what he self-selected, we let him go. Like we got a linebacker. We got 2 linebackers that are flat studs that can play anything on offense. But they both self-selected and they wanted to be linebackers. So that's what they are. They self-selected and they're good at it. I hope I'm not frozen now. I see everyone else is frozen.
All right.
You guys still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. All right. So let me first. I want to go ahead and let Coach Hodgen pop in here and talk a little bit about play calls and stuff like that. He is a big time guy. Coach, can you hear me?
I can.
All right. So if you want, first of all, just tell us a little bit about who you are and so everybody can get to know you and some of the things you've done. Coach's real claim to fame is that he was Drew Piscopo's quarterback coach and offensive coordinator in college. So he created the internet legend that is Drew Piscopo as well. But go ahead, Coach.
Well, good evening, guys. I am the son of a North Carolina high school football coach for 32 years. Bill Hodgen is my dad. He spent most of his career up in the Raleigh-Durham, Chapel Hill area. As a high school player, I was recruited and decided to go to Carson Newman. I ran the split back veer. And about day 3 or day 4, I decided this was not what you do to a quarterback. And that is pretty much what turned me into the spread, or learning about the spread was my experience as a player. I've had some opportunities to spend some time with, guys that we all idolize. But I think what's important, and I've heard it multiple times said tonight by different guys and said in different ways, is I think it's so important that we don't try to do what Mike Leach does, because we're not coaching Mike Leach's players. It's, we take the concepts and we, fit them to what our guys do well. And I think that's been the reoccurring theme that I've heard tonight over and over and over. And I've really enjoyed Coach Salas, your presentation, Coach Carther, your part of the presentation. And I learned an awful lot. I got 2 pages of notes. So I appreciate it.
So talk to us a little bit about you're kind of how you do your play calling, coach. I mean, obviously you scored a ton of points and thrown a bunch of yards, but what is your thought process for game planning? And then obviously, on game day, like how you want to be communicated to and so forth.
Gosh, you ask an awful lot there.
Yeah.
My philosophy is going to change year to year. Again, I'm going to try to lean on what the strengths of this particular roster can do. 2018, we led all of college football in throwing. My quarterback was a finalist for the Gallardi Award, threw 132 touchdown passes in his career. And we were absolutely a 4 vertical team. And it really didn't matter. We were looking at your game film from a little bit earlier. Safety's position where they were, we'd have been throwing 4 verticals in 2018, regardless of the 5-man box. But that was what we were really good at doing. 2021, I started a true freshman quarterback every game. I spent most of the season trying to figure out how do I protect him? How do I not put him in a position to where, we're exposed by his lack of experience. And, but at the same time, we still ran the exact same concept. We just changed our emphasis from a play selection standpoint. One thing that has been quite refreshing tonight, Coach Salas, is I thought I was the only guy in America that didn't run inside zone. Our run game is 100% gap scheme. And so we were GY counter and 11 personnel. We were GT counter. We ran trap. We ran speed option. But, again, it's just taking a look at each position. It starts with the offensive line. We do it individually. Then we do it collectively as a unit. What are these 5 guys really good at doing? There are years that we are primarily a 90 concept passing team. There's years that we just were not really good pass protectors, and we were primarily quick game or screens. There's been other years that we were 2016, we were tremendously efficient running the inside zone scheme. Then a couple of years passed, we were crummy at it, so we did away with it. So just constantly evolving, trying to recognize what the strength of the players that we have right now are and lean on those strengths.
And then, guys, if you have any questions for Coach Hodgson, go ahead. Please feel free to type it in the box or whatever. We'll get those asked to him. Coach, the other thing, as far as, communicating on game day, obviously, you're at the Division III level, so you're a little bit closer to what we have versus, if we were talking to, Mike Leach or somebody who's got 27 guys up in the box and all that other stuff. But just kind of how is your offensive staff broke down as far as like what they're responsible for, like during the game? Like, what are they looking at?
It's very similar to what you guys are doing, what you guys have described tonight. The young man that was my quarterback for 4 years that threw the 132 touchdown passes, he's now on our staff. He's in the box. He knows exactly. He understands what it's supposed to look like and what we're looking for. Rather than him focusing on, a safety, a corner, and an overhang on the side away from us, although he does absorb that responsibility as well, is he's looking for shots. His number one responsibility is to find us a shot. And I've got another guy in the press box who's looking at the box. He charts pressures. We certainly have an idea of what the pressure tendencies are going into the game, but sometimes Leopard do change their spots. So if they're a second long, third and long pressure team, I want to know, is that the way they're defending us? And so we chart that throughout the game. And so that's, he's looking at the box and mainly, just looking at 5 and 6 man pressures. And then on the sideline, we've got our offensive line coach is on the sideline with me. He takes care of the box from a play calling standpoint. And then I basically take care of the corner, the overhang, and the safety on our sideline. So very similar to what you guys are doing.
Cool. Cool. Hey, and if you guys look in the chat box, Coach Hodgin has his Twitter and his cell number in there. If you guys want to do that, if you got some guys that you think can play up there at Shenandoah, definitely hit him up. And, he's been a good friend of mine for a while. He knows his stuff, and he's definitely an air raid guy. So, and loves to talk ball. So, anytime we've ever had anything like this and we've invited him, he's in there, and jumping in there. So anybody else have any questions for Coach before we kind of move on to somebody else? Or all right, let's go with Coach Lash. Coach Lash is the offensive coordinator and athletic director at Julius Chambers High School, formerly Charlotte Vance. For those of you guys who may not know, they changed names this year. But two-time state champion and unfortunately state runner-up this year. But one of the best coaches in the area, in the Charlotte area, calling plays and scoring points. And so, Coach, if you just want to talk to us a little bit about what you go through, how you set up your what ideas you have as far as maybe setting up your game plan and just kind of your kind of philosophy for calling plays.
So we're a multiple team. We're spread, mainly 10 personnel. We did mix in a lot more 11 this year. You'll see some gadget stuff from us every week. We try to add something or tweak something different from a gadget standpoint or trick play standpoint every week. We're up tempo. We try to play as fast as we can. That's our NASCAR, Mayhem, Daytona. We have about 3 different speed packages that we operate in. Usually when we go, real hurry up, it's 1 or 2 plays that we're looking for out of it. Mainly now screens, mainly, your quick bubbles, quick sneaks or quick handoffs, inside zone mainly. Just looking for leverage. I spent a lot more time this year in the box myself, calling plays. We have a co-OC role this year. So mainly for me, the game's about leverage numbers. So from a box standpoint, I'm just communicating with our other OC, where do we have the numbers? Where do we have leverage? And try to attack them with tempo. A lot of the stuff you showed with the now screens, with the quick screens, we're just looking for numbers. How can we get the defense to be as vanilla as possible and attack them? I'm the shot guy. So I'm looking for whoever that guy was that was on film that we seen. When can we take advantage of them? Throwing the ball down the field, trying to get a deep shot or whatever our gadget was for that week. The opportunity to implement that. Our approach is very similar to a lot of you guys. We're not 100% air raid. But we do run inside and outside zone. That's kind of our bread and butter from a run game perspective. We can run some gap scheme stuff, but our linemen, they were just better at blocking zone for the last 3 years. So we've hung our hats on that, and we have a lot of athletes, a lot of speed guys that we can get to the perimeter or get to the edge. So, we do a lot of lateral running, and then we're vertical on the outsides. Mainly for me, I try to keep it simple. To me, I feel like you can get by on 1 or 2 run plays. I feel like you can get by on 1 or 2 pass plays, especially with the athletes that we have. I try to keep it as simple as possible for them. Finding matchups. If you get 7 yards off, 8 yards off on the corner, throw the now route. If you get an uncovered 3, throw the bubble. If you get an uncovered 2, throw the now to him and cross block it. I feel like when we do that, our kids play much faster. It'll be interesting moving forward because we did adapt our head coach's playbook. We made a head coaching change this week, so it'll be interesting to kind of see where we go with the offense moving forward. We'll return a lot of guys, all 11 guys back on offense next year. So it'll be interesting to see what we kind of do moving forward.
Yeah, and you guys have really set the world on fire up there, and I think it's interesting with you in particular because you and your co-OC, y'all are boys. Like, there's no friction in that relationship where sometimes those egos get in that way. So that's real interesting to see you guys go back and forth and chit chat and stuff like that. Does anybody have any questions for Coach Lash? Okay, 2-time state champion in North Carolina.
I'll add to that co-OC role just to kind of provide some insight. Me and him has been at it for 3 years now. It is really like a buddy system. I mean, obviously we're real tight, we're boys, but it's mainly just what can we do to find the best or put our kids in the best possible situation. So we may get into drives where he's just in a rhythm and I shut up and just sit back and say, hey, what you looking for? What you need me to find for you? What you thinking? And then sometimes I'm really in a rhythm from the box. And I can see the leverage better than he can from the sideline. So, hey, let's just roll with this right now. And we just defer to each other. We get in situations, first downs, third and longs, fourth down. What you thinking? What do you think right now? What you like best? Or, what do we talk about when we watch film or game plan? And we just defer to each other. I mean, at the end of the day, the wins still go to the head coach. So our job is to make the kids look great. And in turn, they make us look like geniuses.
Coach Bacon wants to know how do y'all stay on the mountaintop, man? What's the edge at Chambers? Like, what are y'all doing because, when I was in college at Appalachian, obviously Coach Moore is a legend. And I tell the story all the time, but Coach Moore always said winning the first national championship was the easy one. It was the second and third ones that were harder. Getting good is easy, staying good is hard. So, what kind of advice or what have y'all done there in that situation to kind of just keep that edge and keep that hunger?
I think, I always give credit where credit is due. And the previous head coach, Aaron Brand, did a phenomenal job kind of setting a culture that was built on toughness, riggedness, gritty. We've used the term mud boys before, because, our field, our resources, we kind of get it out the mud. And the head coach, that we've had for the past 3 years, he's did a great job of just kind of maintaining that culture, allowing us to attack the weight room, the same way, that same intensity. We look good on social media, but, behind closed doors, our kids really work hard and we demand the most out of them. Kids that come over or may transfer, it's because their parents know we're going to push them to be the absolute best that they can be. Whatever level that may be by the time they leave, they know that, we have a certain expectation that we demand from all position groups. And I think that's something that a lot of coaches have said when they come and watch our practices as well. It's super detailed. We're looking and coaching the little things and just keeping them humble and hungry. And now, obviously not taking care of business in the state championship will just provide some extra hunger, for the next year.
But I will tell you this, guys, if you want to learn about using social media to push your program or your kids, Coach Lash is that dude. They do a heck of a job on social media pushing their kids and with today's kids, when they see that their coaches are doing that kind of thing, that only makes them want to play for you more. So if you want to learn something about that, hit him up on Twitter and that stuff because he's very active over there. And it's there's some magic to that. And I think that has something to do with it. Let's.
Hey, Coach, can you put that Twitter in the message?
I sure can. I got you.
Yeah, and so he's like I said, he's elite at that. I mean, obviously he's a heck of a football coach, but their social media deal is something to be talked about. Coach Dular, you want to jump in and talk a little bit and let's keep this thing moving.
No, man, you guys did a great job. I mean, you said everything that needs to get said. Keep it simple, keep it fast, and do what your kids can do.
And Coach Dular is down at Carolina Forest in South Carolina, and they've played in some huge games, and he's coached some good players and done some things. And he's also worked with Coach Salas as well back in the day. But So he's kind of that same thing. Coach Napier, what about you?
Yeah, man. My advice is y'all call Drew Piscopo. He can tell y'all whatever y'all need. No, yeah, it's a great job, George and Joe. Something that being around Drew that I've picked up on is scripting. Is changing formations. That way you're not running the same formation over and over. I do think there's something to be said about seeing what they give you and being able to take advantage of that. But there's still high school kids over there on the defensive side too. And I'm not saying come up with some crazy formation or anything, but hopping in from trips to 2x2 to 2 backs and still running the same plays and basically getting to that same grasp, it kind of moves them around a little bit and gets them thinking. So that's something I picked up on. But great job by everybody tonight.
I appreciate it. All right, let's just go ahead and open it up to the room. If anybody has a question they want to ask to the room or anything like that, just go ahead and unmute yourself and you can ask a question. And, we'll just sit here and chit chat and try to make sure everybody leaves with no questions unturned. Oh, I forgot. I forgot Coach Littlejohn. I want you to go ahead and go again. I mean, you talked so much before the meeting started. That's why I forgot about it. But Coach Littlejohn won a state championship this year at South Point in South Carolina. He's also been in the Charlotte area, Mallard Creek, and some different places. And you want to go ahead and just kind of talk a little bit about what we were talking about earlier,
It's funny. Yes, sir. I'll get into my office scheme in a minute. But, between you and Coach Salas, it's funny because although you all think differently, I can relate to both of you guys' ideals, especially within my own offense, because sometimes we are very keep it vanilla. Our guys are better than yours type of offense. Let's go fast, one word. However, we are air raid, so I teach my quarterback to look at, pre-snap. We're looking at matchups. Then, especially with our quick game, we're looking at grass and easiest throw. So it's funny because we're kind of a mixture between what you guys got going on. But as far as game planning, we do a good job on Sundays. Really I deal with my O-line coach, and we're gonna look at fronts and stunts, tendencies. Okay, what blitzes are we getting on what down? We break that down. And what I do is a lot of coaches, I notice, they'll say over the years, I don't have any help or I don't have this. So what I do is I'll take care of, when it comes to film tagging, I'll take care of the actual plays itself and formations. My receiver coach will tag the coverages and my O-line coach will tag the fronts and stunts. And on Friday night, it's pretty much a conversation of what we've done Sunday. Hey, coach, we're getting this. So if you see my play call sheet, first of all, it'll have our opening drive. And we'll try to stick to that as best as possible. But then we'll have our drive starters, which is, our 1st and 10. Then we'll have our 2nd and short, which is very similar, honestly, to our 3rd and short, unless we're just getting, heavy blitz. We'll have our 2nd and mid. We'll have our 3rd and long, which usually matches somewhat similar to our 3rd and mid and 3rd and long. And we'll have about 5 runs and 5 passes off of that we do very well. And even towards our last, 4 games for the playoffs, we actually simplified it. And anytime we saw a defense that we saw before, we just repeated it and added a couple of things. But and throughout the playoffs, we averaged about 456 yards a game. During our toughest competition, our kids kind of woke up. And even in the state championship game, I think we had 566 yards. We had over 300 at halftime. And we just stuck to the game plan. And that Buford team we played, they were only giving up 12 points a game, and they were a very disciplined team. And we just know we had to get out and just kind of punch them in the mouth or they were going to be able to stick with us very easily, But when it comes to our game plan, like I said, we are tempo with the wristbands. Now, Coach Salas, to your point, although our wristbands do have the receiver's exact routes, I do not use wristbands in practice. So what I do is when it comes to install, we are wristband free. So we understand the concepts. And we'll use the wristbands more or less through like 7-on-7s during the summer or so we can play faster. But actually in the games, you'll see me go back and forth between wristbands and actual signals. So if I'm calling Y cross or Y shallow, they have to understand the opposite of what you have. So if we're calling Y shallow, and I know Coach Coharp, I know you and your shallows, you don't really do the dig in the post, but, that's just something that we do. But they just know that, if we're calling Y shallow, then the opposite H, he has the dig and the post is behind that. type deal as compared to whoever we're tagging to the shallow. But yeah, we keep our concepts in there. And even on our wristbands, if we run zone, it just says zone right. So they have to understand what they have on the back side of that, or play side, or if they're 3x1 versus 2x2. So our rule of thumb is if we go zone right 2x2, then the back side we have a bubble and blocking. Okay. If we're 3x1, okay. So for example, we're early zone right, then backside now has what we call a read slant. Read slant, pretty much if they're 7 yards off, they have a hitch, or if they're pressed, it's an automatic slant. So just kind of something about quarterback. And anytime our quarterback, if we're running zone right, which is our inside zone, if we're running zone right and backside, they're 7 yards off, our quarterback can pull it any time and just rip it out there and get what he can get. So, offensive scheme is very good. We were just junior loaded, which is scary. My top receiver was a senior, but 3 of my starting receivers were only juniors. And one of my receivers exploded in the state championship with about 177 yards. His older brother's the kid DK that's at Georgia now that plays corner, was a previous quarterback at South Point. So he's a receiver. So that bloodline and legacy is really big. Even in Rock Hill schools, we have a lot of athletes now who are brothers of previous South Point teams. So one of our goals this year was still South Point as far as keeping that legacy, but explosiveness, but I'm not gonna lie, we do have the athletes. But South Carolina, even some of the teams with 5-5 records, they're loaded with athletes, so that's pretty much our identity. So, air raid passing scheme, inside zone, outside zone. We installed, because our quarterback was 6'5", 230, but he can move a little bit. We did more of bash, which bash for us is our, QB counter. So we're going to read that backside in and then pull the guard and tackle to the play side and just read it, and if that backside in, if he chases the quarterback, we're going to let him have it. And this is outside zone, backside, and the receivers are blocking for it. So that worked for us really good against in the playoffs against Greenwood, because Greenwood had a nice linebacker core, but they were just flying down so fast on our running backs. We said, okay, cool, we're just gonna pull it and go. And our quarterback had about a 60-yard run, and so we scored 2 times with our quarterback on just Q ISO. And we just let our running backs kind of just take the brunt of it. And the quarterback, came right behind them. So we had an explosive season. We went 12-1. The one I hate. We were missing 4 starters, which is no excuse. I still beat myself up for it because I figured out we could have found a way to win. But, we turned our team around. We were 6-3 last year with the same kids. But we just needed, like you say, more structure, more daily must, more pack and go, more settle drill, and the kids really, they bought into it. And you saw the results on the field instantly this year. So
you've done a heck of a job this year for sure. And I kind of like that read slant idea. That it's either a gift hitch or a slant. So does the alignment of the corner have anything to do with? I mean, I know you talked about the depth, but if he's inside or outside, does that really matter?
Okay, if he's inside, then obviously we can always tag it if we want to. So we can always look out there and say, hey, X, you got to go route. Our X just happened to be one of those kids that, he could run and go off of it. So, if you have an athlete that can do it, but if not, we're just not going to waste it. We're not going to think too much into it. If anything, if that corner is inside leverage for the most part and the quarterback pulls it and he's by himself anyway, then we're good. There's nobody else to read anyway. So that just takes care of it anyway. The receiver can turn into a blocker.
I think you just said probably the nugget of the whole clinic right there a second ago, and I hope some of the younger guys caught that. You said we not gonna make it too complicated, right? And that's one of those things when you get on the chalkboard. The guy with the marker pen last always wins that. But we always want to try to make something complicated when we don't have to. So. But like I said, guys, Coach Littlejohn is awesome. He's on Twitter as well. Donald, if you put your Twitter in the thing so they can hit you up too, man.
Everybody.
They've done a phenomenal job. Does anybody else have any just general questions for the group, or feel free to unmute and ask?
Is Napier still in here?
I don't know. Let me look.
I guess that's a no.
He might have had to put babies to bed.
Yeah. I wanted to know if he was still scripting the field.
The last time I talked to him, he was.
How about Shane? Is he still in here?
Yeah, Shane's here.
Talk about scripting the field.
No, I want to know what you're thinking when you're creating your open list.
Well, we're a lot more formation oriented, so we are trying to see what the game plan is versus all of our different looks, and we're trying to set stuff up. So we might line up in a formation knowing that we're going to shift and move in the second half out of that formation, or show a different motion to get numbers, and try and see how they're going to play counter in our gap schemes and what we have to do to make them work.
Anybody else got any good questions for anybody in particular, or for the room? Feel free to ask. This is your time.
I know earlier somebody was talking about what do you do against man? I know a big thing to really see and fix man is stack. Stack can really do a lot of things about this confusion of instantly changing the receiver's responsibilities, and seeing how they identify it. We went stack against Shelby, and Shelby, obviously another historically just great school. And, we put 51 points on them. Now, granted, in both teams, they won a state championship too. But we went stack, and we just kind of high-load them. And I just told my quarterback, still read the corner, same read, nothing changes. And the corner and the safety both bit on, the hitch. And then we went 85 yards. So, and they were in man, but they just both got confused, and it's going to happen, in that situation. So, when you go stack, you can switch up your receivers' routes for both verticals. You can go, we did anything out of stack we wanted, whether we went shallow, we went slant. And then if we go slant bubble out of stack, then now the outside guy, instead of a bubble, he just turns into a hitch. But, it instantly tells you who's running with who. And if they mess up at all, you're going to probably get grass, maybe I'd say 60% of the time, and at the end of the day, if it is man, then it gives you a clear box, because some coaches like to set their linebackers out there. So now you got a 4-1 box and you're good to go. So stack is always money against man for us. And it forces teams to really, really put their athletes out there. And most teams don't have 4 solid athletes to man up on. So.
Coach, are you talking about 2x2 stack, or
yes, sir?
How are you talking?
Yes, sir. I'm just talking about basic. Talking about keeping it simple. Basic 2x2 stack. We'll do 3x1 stack and stack our 2 inside guys, especially when we're switching their routes anyway, to get loose. And then we played against Indian Land this year, and they did a stack 4 wide. And that worked, man. That was just something we stole. We ended up not using it, but. What that did to York High School was phenomenal. Getting their running back involved and stacking their 2 slots, and then having a number 1 on the outside. So it really left one of the slots wide open every time, really to the field, if that makes sense. So
yeah, I saw someone running stick out of that, and it looked fantastic.
It's hard to defend, man, because the thing is, in stack, your receiver routes don't change. The defense has to change, and they're always going to choose wrong. So if you really work that over and over and over again and just tell your quarterback's eyes where to go, it's simple. It's no different than coach talking about using motion. Sometimes I would, have a 3x1 play called, but I would just line up in 2x2 and motion the 3x1 just so, if they're in man, it would give us a free guy, because the defense had to adjust to it. And then, you're talking about tempo. Tempo works. If you already know you're going to throw out a 3x1, just line up in 2x2. The motion may slow down just a little bit, but for the most part, we're good. And what I like about tempo is I'm looking at the D-line. I'm looking at hands on hips. The moment they have their hands on the hips, we're running inside zone right then and there. They can't stop it. They're tired. They're like you said, they're telling our O-line, hey, man, y'all going too fast. And our O-line is laughing. We're going right at them. But I'm looking at D-line hands on hips. I'm looking at 12 on the field, looking at teams trying to get, guys on off the field, especially in the red zone, trying to get their bigger guys in while they're trying to switch. We're trying to get that playoff right now, and they're confused. And then on top of that, if we're going really, really, really fast, then we're going to freeze call it. Because we already know that their defense is nowhere in mindset to slow down, and they're going to jump. That happened in the state championship game. We had just got a penalty on the other team. Half the distance to the goal line. I think it was about 1st and 10. Right after that penalty, we just went freeze, and then it was 1st and 5, and then we pushed it in right after that. So just different times to use tempo is also that's a talk within itself about the strength of tempo and freeze calls and when to use it.
What do you? What's your base rule 2x2 stack? Are you putting your outside guy on the line or your inside guy on the line?
Usually, we're going to put our number one back on the line so their rules don't change about who the number one and number two is, except for if we see a team that maybe is really, really good matching up with us. We want our best receiver off the ball, and we'll just put him at number two just to give him a little bit of wiggle room just in case.
Right. I like
All right,
it.
there's a question in the box, and I'll just shoot it out to the room about what we do with the running back in the passing game as far as protection. I can tell you that I'm a free release kind of guy. I tell my quarterbacks all the time that as soon as the easiest way to kill a blitz is throw the back. Just go ahead and throw that swing. I know when I was at the college level, they wanted us to check swing on mesh and things like that. But I'm generally, if he's in the progression, because for me in my 90 game, the back is usually number two. So if I'm reading mesh, I'm going to read high swing mesh, or if I'm reading stick, I'm going to go, vert back stick. So I'm going to free release those guys. Now in some of the other quick game, they'll be able to stay in if they're not involved. But just anybody else in the room, what do you guys do with the back? Shane?
I like what you do with the back, and honestly, I think that's probably the best way. But I still do the check swing. Just I don't want to have to teach my quarterback to throw hot. He's not number two for me in a lot of our 90 game. So I still like doing the check releases on just about everything. There's a few things I send him out on, but that's just my personal preference. I already put a lot on him. We do a lot with our quarterbacks. My playbook's probably a little bit bigger than a lot of the other air raid guys, and that's just one thing I don't want to try and get into.
Anybody else? Anybody else have any other questions? Well, man, it's been a great couple of hours, guys. I really appreciate you guys coming in. I hope that you got something from this. And what I'll also do, if it's all right with Coach Salas, is just go ahead and put that game in with the video so they can have a good copy in case their video was messed up. You all right with that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I'll just download the clips and put it in there with the video as well. So if you had a hard time with the video, you'll be able to have a copy of that too. And then Coach Salas will email me his presentation. And then here in a couple of days, I'll send it to you, and you guys can have all of that and the Q&A and all that good stuff, man. Maybe looking to do something next month. I'm not sure what the topic will be. There was a lot of great ideas in here, man. And like I said, guys, I don't think I've ever met Coach Littlejohn in person. I know I haven't met Coach Lash in person. These are guys that I met on Twitter that we just started chit-chatting one day, and I reached out. And I'm telling you, if you're not reaching out to guys like these guys, those two guys right there are elite level offensive coordinators, been in big games, played with big athletes. And people like to say, well, they got players, they got this, they got that. Sometimes when you have great players, that's harder to deal with because you got guys who have different mindsets, and to get them to compete. So reach out to those guys on Twitter, reach out to these guys, like Coach Dular and Coach Salas, and ask them questions, and you'd be surprised. For you younger guys, we were young one day too, for guys who were just trying to learn the air raid now. I was you one time before. Just appreciate you guys coming in. Coach Salas, you got anything else? Just want to push the Air Raid High School Edition will be coming out hopefully on Wednesday. So be looking for it, please. Yeah, Coach Salas has really, really worked hard. I can't tell you how many times I got called in the office and the door closed, and I was like, "Man, what I done did now?" And he was like, "Hey, let me ask you a question." So he's done a really good job on that. And like I said, man, it's been a pleasure. Coach Hodgen, really appreciate you coming in. Do you have an email or something that you use for recruiting that you might want to shoot out to these guys, or you just do everything on Twitter? Okay, so check. Yeah, Coach just put that in the box. So if you want to hit him up with some highlights for your kids, they're a Division III school right up there in Virginia, but they sling it around. And I can tell you, talking to Drew played for Coach, and he just speaks so highly of him. So I know that if you send your kids up there, they're going to be taken care of and treated the right way, which is always a big thing. Other than that, guys, man, I really appreciate it. Appreciate you guys coming in, and hopefully you got something out of this. Shoot me an email, shoot me a text on Twitter or whatever. And if I can help you with anything, I will be more than happy to do it.
Thanks, man.